All right guys, welcome back to the GPURisers mining bunker. I have been letting this thing run for a while now, overnight, and I'm ready to get the next 4 put onto it. So that said, I am going to be powering this down. I'm going to get another 1600 watt EVGA power supply put into that side. I'm going to be putting on 4 more risers, 4 more Zotac 3090s, and also a dual PSU adapter for the motherboard. So let me go ahead and get these all taken out and let's get started on it. All right, actually I will be putting in the power supply before these 4 cards. So let me go ahead, get this taken out. This is the add to PSU cord that I will be using. It looks like you plug this into the motherboard and then both other power supplies plug into these. So I'm hoping that works. It was a little more expensive than the ones that are powered. Sometimes they have, boards that are about that big that have like a Molex or SATA connection, and as soon as it senses that the first power supply turned on, it'll turn on the second. However, I wanted to give this one a shot. It was about $5 more. So we're gonna try it today. So let me get this out, let me get that installed. Once that is installed, I'll come back and then we'll get these out. All right guys, we're back here. I do have the other 1600 watt power supply installed right here. So if you're interested in seeing this again, I don't wanna go over it again and be repetitive for you guys that are following along, but there's 8 pins coming out of here, and 4 of the 8 are attached to our 18 AWG splitter cables. So the reason we do that is to be able to power the riser via 6 pin and also utilize the full power of it in one of the 8 pins of the 3090s. So I do have the second PSU thing added here. You can see it branches off and it connects to the other power supply right here. Really what this is it's just these 2 wires that are connecting it. Back in the day, I would just use most of the time like a paper clip and put it in and just turn both on at the same exact time. However, for me now, it's worth the extra $10 to just set it up the right way. So I'm gonna actually test this real quick. I am going to connect this to the PDU, power on both of the power supplies, and make sure that this one is being recognized and is turning on before I connect the risers and graphics cards to it. But real quick, I wanted to go over, I don't think I did in the last video, the cables that I am using. I'm a huge fan of Triplite, and these are PDU cables here. Let me take this out real quick. And by PDU cables, it means that it has this connection right here that can connect right into your PDU. And then you have the other end, which of course would connect to your power supply. However, before going on 240, when I was doing this residentially, they sold cords just like this, except it had a 20 amp plug on this side. So on the other end here, instead of having it, of course, connect to a PDU like this one, they do have a 20 amp plug that, is a 20 amp plug really is one that goes horizontal, one that goes vertical. You see a lot of the outlets, probably in your bathrooms or in your kitchens, but some houses do have the ability to have a normal 15 amp outlet, one that doesn't have the 20 amp capability, and you could just swap it out with a 20 amp one, and then you'll be able to utilize a larger, thicker cord like this one. So I do not ever skimp and go cheap on cords to power my rigs, and I cannot recommend Triplite more. They are a great company. So yeah, be safe out there and use good cables. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get this all connected and test it out real quick. All right, so I have both plugged in. They are on different banks, meaning they are on both different breakers on this single PDU. However, I want them to be on the same breaker. So this really is just for testing it right now. I will be actually plugging it into the PDU on that side that's currently powering this 3060 Ti LHR rig. But there's no power draw actually coming from this right now, 0 amps. I do actually have the network switch plugged in, but that's drawing close to no watts. So we will be able to get an accurate reading before we load this onto that PDU. This will be consuming a lot of watts, so it's kind of important to see what you're putting on to your outlets or onto your PDUs on an isolated environment before you put it onto one that's housing other rigs. So enough of that. Let me go ahead and get these 2 power supplies turned on and make sure that this one is working just fine. All right, so I just turned this one on right here. I am going to flick this one on now. There we go. And the fan is spinning, meaning that this did recognize that there is power coming from the motherboard strand. So that's good to see. I'm gonna go ahead and power this down and start getting some risers and cards loaded on here. I'll see you guys in a minute. So we've gotten the 4 other Zotac 3090s out here. We got our 8 capacitor risers ready to go on, and we also have our splitter cables already put onto our 8 pins. I did want to add real quick, I didn't mention it, and honestly I completely forgot about it. I'm so used to, turning on these power supplies at the same time. I've always, strayed away from dual power supplies because of that. And for, other reasons as well. When you're using 2 power supplies on a single outlet, it can create issues. You don't want to run, one power supply on one breaker, one on another breaker in case one stops, So there were a couple of reasons, and I just kind of stopped doing it because of, a couple of those. But, you guys might already know this. I just want to mention it for people that might not. This power supply is still on. This power supply is not. And when I power that one on, this one clicks on automatically. But the big thing for me is when I power that one down, this one also powers down. So really, you only ever have to focus on the master power supply. So I just wanted to point that out to you guys. That's something that would have been helpful to me in the beginning when I was trying to, figure out what I'm doing. Every day I feel like I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing still. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get these 4 risers put on and get these 4 cards put on, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, we are back, and we have all 8 of these RTX 3090s running. So I didn't want to go into the installing of all of it. I know it gets very repetitive. This has been running for about 5 to 10 minutes now. I could show you guys on Minerstat the statistics for it. I did see it go over 900 mega hash, but I think that we are getting some thermal throttling. This is lowering a little bit. So, I'll see how this goes. The spacing really on this kind of got cut off over here. It was going fine. It was every 4 holes I had it organized. I was going to put a card. As you can see, this one is going to be a little bit closer. And this is 8 cards, and it's still too close on a 12 card frame. And, we still do have issues on this, 2-layer frame that we have here. I don't like putting more than 4 on each row. I do, however, believe with these 6600 XTs, those are very low power draws to the point where I think I can run 2 cards off 1 splitter. And I think I am just going to cram 12 of those in there. But we'll see how that goes whenever that time comes, which will hopefully be next week. I do want to get these filled up, but I did want to get this 3090 build going. Now you can see this, it just keeps dropping a little bit lower. You can still see it's about $65 a day. That's what this rig is bringing in, about $452 a week and close to $2,000 a month mining Ethereum. So the reason why I chose 3090s is I do believe long term these cards are going to be amazing at mining. They have 24 gigabytes of VRAM, and they are so capable on so many different algorithms that I really do think that these will be future-proofed. Along with that, purchasing these, they are very expensive. These were about $2,500 a piece. A total of over $20,000 for this rig. The 2 power supplies were about $450 each from EVGA Direct. And I actually did get B stock, 2 more 1600 watts from EVGA for $350 a piece that are on the way. The motherboard was about $150, RAM, CPU, another $100. So yeah, this is a very, very expensive rig, but I plan on having this for quite a long time. I know Ethereum is switching to proof of stake. They've been telling me that since I think 2017. Everyone was saying make sure you get rid of your 4 gigabyte and 8 gigabyte 470s, 480s, 570s, 580s because proof of stake is coming, so you better sell now. And honestly, I did sell some of it. I sold some of those cards, and I dropped my hash rate a little bit thinking point of stake was right around the corner. And for the past 4 years, I've been kind of living every day thinking, oh, point of stake for Ethereum right around the corner. But the reality is nowadays there are so many different algorithms, so many different projects that are coming alive that I don't really even care if Ethereum goes proof of stake sooner than later. But ideally, I'd like the best ROI on these cards possible, but I believe that they will be absolute powerhouses on future algorithms. So that's why I chose these. I know you guys probably saw my shelf right there of other graphics cards, and I want to have at least one rig filled with every type of card that's out. And that's so, if I want to start doing speculative mining on, different algorithms and things like that, I'll have a rig of that type of card ready and available to go. But as I've said before, I do have 3 more of these 3090s, 1 more of these Zotac. I have 1 more Asus TUF and a Gigabyte WindForce, I think is what it's called. I do have another 3090 on the test bench right there. But really, I'm only going to be doing, I think, 1 more of these rigs for 3090s, and I'll slowly fill that rig up as I do get cards. Just to kind of an insight on how I've been mining since 2016, 2017 is I don't really take profits out all too much. And by not taking profits out, I'm not hodling a whole bunch of crypto. But what I'm doing is I'm buying more GPUs with the crypto that I'm mining. And I know I've mentioned this in a couple videos. I am really soon making a whole business series on how to set this up as a business. But if you mine $1,000 of crypto, you're gonna owe tax on $1,000 of crypto. But if you buy just say, an RTX 3090 for $2,500, even though you cashed out $1,000 of crypto, you're still gonna have a loss from your business of about $1,500. So instead of taking gains and taking money off the table, I've been kind of rolling the gains into graphics cards, or as a business, you would call it equipment. So long story short, really what I'm saying is all of these cards have been paid for by mining proceeds that I have sold, and then I've bought more cards for, and I'm kind of growing a farm that way. And when you get to the size of this, as you guys saw, these do make altogether about $65 a day. In about 10 days, you have $650, and that's the price kind of close to what a 3060 Ti LHR is. So you can really get a couple of cards every month just from a rig like this. And of course, there are a million variables, when I'm talking about this kind of stuff. Don't take this as financial advice or how to, go into your mining venture or anything like that. This is just for my situation. I have a full-time job on top of this. So there is a huge risk with stuff like this. I saw a lot of people get burned in 2017, maxing out credit cards, getting lines of credit, taking a second mortgage or third mortgage out on their house to load up on graphics cards, because when you see what they make, it's almost like a no-brainer. Why not do it? And like I've said, I mentioned ROI on a lot of these cards, but in my specific situation, these cards were paid for with mining proceeds. So instead of taking this $65 a day, taking out the electrical costs, which here in this commercial facility now, I am getting close to 8 cents a kilowatt, which is amazing. But instead of taking that money off the table and cashing out, putting $65 a day into my bank account, I will be buying more graphics cards. And eventually there will become a time where this gets kind of filled out and I can't really fit anything else on it. But mining has been pretty profitable this year. And so, the end of the tax year is coming. December 31st is the cutoff. So you don't want to have a whole bunch of mining proceeds, just let's just use $10,000 as an example of how much you've mined in 2021. And then, come December, you're like, you know what? I think next month I am going to invest into more graphics cards, because you're going to owe the tax on that $10,000 of mining proceeds for 2021, and then in 2022 you're going to start getting your cards in that you're buying, and so you could take the deduction for the cards in 2022, but it's not going to affect the income that you had in this year. So I'm not going to ramble too much about that. I will ramble a whole lot about it in a video series about it. The best way I could put it is, do not put graphics cards on lines of credit with the anticipation of paying them off with mining proceeds. If you want to do that, you can. I highly suggest not doing that. That is where people get in trouble. So if you max out a credit card with graphics cards with the anticipation of paying them off, and then all of a sudden you can't pay them off, you're going to be owing 20 to 25% interest on that balance. And that right there is how a lot of people got burned in 2016, 2017, and 2018. So long story short, do not be one of those people. I have slowly built out, all the graphics cards that I have. I would have, 10 cards, and then I would mine enough Ethereum to sell to be able to buy an 11th card, and then a 12th card, and then a 13th card. And now when you get to this size, especially being able to have a full rig like this paid off, making $65 a day, it just ramps up and you can buy more and more until you eventually fill out a facility like this. And when I say fill out a facility, I mean, this is a pretty large room, but these 2 racks are 60 amps. This is going to be another 30 right here. And I might be able to get another 3 here, but eventually it will be maxed out. So long story short, I don't want to ramble too much. Just be careful when it comes to, putting money into mining rigs. And additionally, not to shill our products or anything like that, I will shill APC, Trip Light, but when you're spending this kind of money on cards, don't cheap out on anything related to the power, anything like that. The frames, sure, you could cheap out on that. The fans, okay, but really, cords, splitter cables, risers, do not cheap out on things like that when you're spending this kind of money. The cables and the risers are the cheapest part by far on these mining rigs. Also, you don't want to be cheaping out on power distribution units or anything like that. You want to make sure to have the thick gauge cables because you want to protect your investment. That's really what this is. But enough of that rambling. I will show you guys real quick the current wattage draw here. We are pulling 2,630 watts from this rig. So this would never be possible on 120 volt. That's why I haven't built one out yet. I did all the calculations and I could have done 4, rigs of 4 on different breakers, but I've already maxed out, my shed, my house, everywhere. So I was holding off on these 3090s until I could do it right and do it on 240. That said, this is 2,600 watts. Each PDU can do about 5,700. So we could actually fit 2 of these rigs on a single PDU. But what I really want to do down the line, I want to try to get 12 3090s on one rig. I will need 3 1600 watt power supplies to do it, but it does sound fun. But I would need obviously a much longer frame to do it. I don't see any frames on the market that are doing it, so I might just have to go and build one. But if you guys have any, suggestions or anything on maybe a frame that's wider, I don't really want the 2-tier one with these 3090s. It's just a little too much. These cards shoot heat straight up, and I would like it to just all be open so it's able to float up to these high ceilings and then eventually out through the exhaust there. So I'm gonna wrap it up there, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys have any questions or anything like what I did, please put a comment down below. If you guys like what you're seeing, hit that like button and subscribe. We will be doing a daily vlog on building this whole thing out, and maybe some additional videos on top of that once we can get a studio area set up over there. But we are really excited and we're working hard here. But enough of that. I hope everyone watching this has a great rest of their day, and we'll see you guys next time.